sake. Project Summary. Project Focus. This project examines how first impressions are formed, the psychological mechanisms behind them, and the role of personal and cultural biases in shaping snap judgment. It will also highlight relational persons and the broken in need of redemption themes. Research approach. Analyzing findings from cognitive psychology and social psychology. This project reviews peer-reviewed studies on bias and impressions. Practical outcomes. This project will identify strategies individuals can use to reduce bias and improve interpersonal accuracy. It will also identify what God tells us about judgment. Introduction. What are first impressions? First impressions are rapid judgments formed within seconds of meeting someone. Some people assume based on visible cues, such as face, voice, posture, and clothing. First impressions can help us navigate social environments efficiently. It is said by some scientists that first impressions are made within the first 30 seconds of meeting someone, or less. What societal elements contribute to assumptions? What factors are often assumed during first impressions, and what is the problem with first impressions? These will all be discussed. Why do first impressions occur? The brain relies on fast, thin-slice processing. This fast-paced thinking may help us assess the safety, trust, and intent. This is why we tend to make quick judgments. It is a mechanism for quick decisions. The downside to this is the bias that shapes impressions. Accuracy of first impressions and what scientists say. Sometimes first impressions may be accurate according to observable behaviors, but are less accurate for personality and moral traits. Bias often reduces reliability. Research shows that trustworthiness is judged within the first seconds of seeing a face. People often decide whether someone seems safe or threatening. Humans also assess attractiveness almost instantly, and it affects perceived intelligence, kindness, and success. This is called the halo effect. Attractive individuals are automatically judged more positively across unrelated traits. Diane Bursheet. Competence. Proverbs 4:6-7. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. Attractiveness. 1 Peter 3:3-4. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Warmth and likability. Matthew 7:3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Emotional expression. Romans 12:3. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measurement of faith that God has assigned. Age. 1 Timothy 4:12. Do not let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. Learn dissociations. In the brain. Matthew 7:1. Judge not, that you will not be judged. With the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measures you use it will be measured to you. I believe these all relate to each of their own topics through what God tells us to do, instead of what society tells us to do. Before and after scenario. Imagine you encounter a classmate. She has come to school tired and in a bad mood. You greet her, and she dismisses your smile with a quick hi, and then goes on with her day. You feel like her attitude could have been a bit more receptive, and she could have at least put in some effort with you. Later in class, she gets called to the office to go home, and you learn from one of her friends that her parents have been going through a rough separation. Would this have caused you to judge differently had you known? This is an example of how first impressions negatively impact our view of people. God calls us to love one another, and when we use first impressions as a judgment of a person, it leads us to make false assumptions about another. Conclusion and final reflection. Justification of the study. First impressions are nearly an unavoidable part of the human psychology. Research shows that we judge others in less than a minute, assessing many traits. Understanding the science behind first impressions matters because it can help us recognize that our initial reactions are not always accurate reflections of a person's character. God calls us not to judge others and look inwards. He calls us to guide others to his love, not away from it. God encourages us to love one another and look inward to reflect before judging one another. I believe this applies to how we look at others. We are meant to abandon our sinful ways and see others with love, to envision them as the creation that God meant them to be. Resources page. Thank you.